Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 2 Peerless Tang Men based on novel. So let's start. Only Wang Yang, Bei Bei, Hikai Tu, Chu Sancha, Jiang Nan Nan, Xiao Xiao, Wu Yu Hao and Wang Dong were left in the Sea God's Pavilion right now. Their excitement had died down after Yang Xiaosha reprimanded both Dai Yueheng and Ling Luo Chen. They were even a little discomforted now. Yang Xiaosha turned to them and smiled. He said, "What's wrong? Do all of you think that the academy is being too strict on them? I have to say that these are the academy's requirements of all our inner courtyard students. The academy has used various forms of resources to nurture the inner courtyard disciples, thus it's natural that our requirements are high too. You're also going to be part of the inner courtyard in the near future. All of you will understand then. All right, it's time for your rewards. Teacher Wang. Dean Yuan." Wang Yang stepped forward and bowed respectfully. Yang Xiaosha said sincerely, "Although we didn't have all our team members around, for official team members couldn't compete, and 3 of the others were even injured, and yet you still managed to lead the team to victory in the tournament. All of us can see how capable you are. You shall be promoted to Shrek Academy's top-ranked teacher of the inner courtyard." Wang Yang said hurriedly, "Dean, I don't want any reward. It's not really my effort that won us the tournament. It's all because of these kids' hard work. They gave their all and came back from the dead more than once. If the academy really wants to reward someone, they should reward all of them handsomely." Dai Yueheng and Ling Luochen's treatment left Wang Yang frightened that the academy would neglect these kids' hard work. Yang Xiaosha smiled slightly and answered, "They'll be rewarded too. So will you. What I just mentioned wasn't even considering your reward yet. It's only just a normal promotion. The real reward for you is that the Sea God's hidden beach will be open to you for a year. You are allowed to read anything you want within this year, but you can only read and research within the hidden beach." What? After hearing his reward, Wang Yang didn't conceal his emotions in front of all the elders. He was so excited that he jumped up, and his face turned red from agitation. What was in the Sea God's hidden beach? There were countless solitary copies of books, out-of-print collections and resources. At least in Wang Yang's eyes, it was the greatest wealth that Shrek Academy possessed. Even the Sea God's Pavilion elders had to go through complicated administrative processes to enter the hidden beach to read. 1 year of access to the hidden beach was extremely valuable to Wang Yang. Yang Xiaosha smiled upon seeing Wang Yang's excited behavior. He said, "Teacher Wang, this is the reward that you deserve. We can see your contributions to the academy, as well as your persistence and hard work in your research. I hope that you can learn more from the Sea God's hidden beach over the next year. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, elders." Wang Yang was so excited that he almost bowed all the way to the ground. He would have never have imagined that he would be given access to the Sea God's hidden beach. All the elders smiled and nodded their heads at him. In Shrek Academy, only the best were valued. This was applicable even in the aspect of theoretical research, which was considered crucial in the academy. There was one 7-ringed elder in the Sea God's Pavilion who specialized in theoretical research. But he didn't have such a long lifespan compared to the title d'Or. That was why such individuals tend to be lower in numbers in the Sea God's Pavilion. Yang Xiaosha turned to Hu Yuhao and the rest and he said, "It's all of your turns, kids. I can only express my astonishment and awe regarding your performances. Shrek Academy has emerged champions in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament several thousand times. But I am certain that this is one of the most meaningful triumphs that we have achieved, and it deserves to be recorded in our history. Shrek will remember the contributions that all of you have made. All of you are the Academy's true heroes." Everyone was moved when they heard Yang Xiaosha's words. They didn't expect such an appraisal from the Academy. It was glorious to be recorded in Shrek's history. Everyone suddenly started to feel passionate. Yang Xiaosha said, "The Academy's senior management are aware of what all of you have done. All of you have shouldered Shrek's shining glory. In a tournament that was supposed to merely be training for all of you, you fought unyieldingly and attained the championship through your efforts. Your brilliance has left all of us astounded. After a conference here in the Sea God's Pavilion, we've decided to award 2 different rewards to all of you. The Academy was given 3 soul bones and 1 extra one as the champions. The extra one is suitable for Hu Yuhao. The Academy has also decided to offer 3 more soul bones, so that each one of the rest of you can receive 1 soul bone each. All of you will be allowed to choose based on your abilities and special characteristics too." "Another 3 soul bones?" Everyone was delighted. If each of them was given a soul bone each, there wouldn't be much of a choice anyway. The reward offered by the Academy was comparable to the Star Luo empires. But they would be even more shocked by what was to come. Yang Xiaosha said in a deep voice, "The soul bones are used to encourage all of you for your efforts in the tournament. But the Academy is also going to credit all of you for protecting the Academy's glory. From this moment onwards, the Academy shall name the 7 of you Shrek's 7 monsters." He stopped for a moment before saying seriously, "For life." Hui Yu Hao and the others couldn't help but exclaim in shock after they heard those last 2 words. They stared at Yang Xiaosha with their eyes and mouths wide open. They felt as if their spirits had left their bodies at this moment. Shrek's 7 monsters. While these words sounded simple, they held a deep meaning to Shrek Academy, and even the entire Doluo continent. Ever since the glory held by the first generation of Shrek's 7 monsters, this name continued to represent greatness up till now. There were only 2 instances so far in Shrek's history that anyone possessed this name for life. They were only conferred to inner courtyard disciples that had contributed greatly to the Academy. The soul bones were already a huge surprise to all of them, but this lifetime Shrek 7 Monsters title conferred onto them was much more meaningful. The glory that belonged to Shrek would be imprinted onto their bodies and spirits from this moment onwards. They were going to shine for life under this glory that had been shared with them. This reward brought such a shock to all of them that it couldn't be described in words. Hui Yu Hao and the rest were all speechless. They finally understood why Yang Xiaosha was so determined to let Xu Sanxia and Jiang Nannan follow them to the Sea God's Pavilion. He didn't just want to censure them, but to give them the opportunity to claim their rewards personally. This was an extremely important moment in all their lives. They would regret it for life if they missed this moment. Yang Xiaosha said in a deep voice, "The Sea God's Pavilion discussed the matter for an entire day before we came up with this reward. It was only decided after a round of voting by the elders and a final decision by the master. But I must clarify one thing first. To ensure the smooth progression of your studies in the Academy, this will not be publicized. It will even only be recorded in our history. Before all of you graduate, only all of you will be privy to this. Please don't make it public." They could understand this restriction they had to face. If news of this spread, they would be put into the limelight. This would then affect their normal cultivation and studies. As their team leader, Bei Bei could not help but ask, "Dean Yang, does lifetime refer to the time we spend in the Academy or?" Yang Xiaosha smiled and replied, "What? Is it so difficult to understand? It's called lifetime because it'll be with all of you for your entire lives. Furthermore, this title will not be given to anyone else as long as one of you is still alive. That's why all of you need to work hard at your cultivation and try to live longer. This glory will then stay with all of you for a longer period of time." Bei Bei was delighted, and used his eyes to gesture to the rest. He bowed respectfully towards the 4 deans and the elders present. The others understood him and followed his lead, as they bowed respectfully too. Yang Xiaosha stepped to one side and said respectfully to someone at the head of the table, "Teacher, do you have any other instructions?" Everyone just now realized that there was someone half lying on the other side of the table. They couldn't see what he looked like because of their perspective. "Kids, your performances were beyond what I expected. That's why these rewards are what all of you have earned. But it's important to realize that this doesn't mean you will be forever successful. All of you must live up to the name of Shrek's 7 monsters. I hope that all of you can work hard to preserve Shrek's glory just like you did before. Bei Bei, Xu Sanxia, Jiang Nannan, and He Kai too, the 4 of you are already beyond soul ancestors. I grant special permission to the 4 of you to go take the inner courtyard test after this academic year ends. After passing the test, the 4 of you shall continue to learn in the inner courtyard. The difficulty level of your tests will remain the same." Bei Bei and the other 3 looked at one another. Right now, they were all nervous. The test choked many external courtyard disciples, and there were very few who could really be admitted to the inner courtyard. It was impossible for them not to feel anxious, as they were about to undergo the test earlier than was required. The frail, elderly voice continued, "Hui Yu Hao, Wang Gong, and Xiao Xiao, the 3 of you shall remain on the Sea God's Island temporarily and cultivate alongside me. The 3 of you will only return to the external courtyard when I think that it's time. Bei Bei and Xu Sanxia shall be guided by Little Xian, while Jiang Nannan shall be guided by Cai Maya. More effort has to be placed on Lin Duo Duo, Fan Yu, and He Kai too. If they don't pass the test, you will be punished as teachers." Although this elderly voice sounded very gentle and benevolent, his words left everyone convinced, and no one doubted his words. All the Sea God's Pavilion elders and 4 deans stood up together and bowed towards Elder Mu respectfully. Meeting dispersed. Elder Mu's voice became more peaceful. All the elders seemed to instantly disappear. The new Shrek 7 monsters didn't even notice their movements clearly. Elder Xian, the 4 Deans and Fan Yu remain, all of you can go too. It's fine if only Hui Yu Hao and the other 2 remain here. Elder Mu waved his hand, yes. Yang Shaoxia replied respectfully and left with everyone quietly. Bei Bei and He Kai too lifted both Xu Sanxia and Jiang Nan Nan as they left too. They all glanced at Hui Yu Hao as they left. They gave him an encouraging look. The Sea God's pavilion quieted down. Hui Yu Hao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao were nervous. The master of the Sea God's pavilion, who was half lying on the main seat, was even Dean Yang Shaoxia's teacher. He was the greatest authoritative figure in Shrek Academy. Kids, come over. Elder Mu gestured towards the 3 of them. Hui Yu Hao, Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao walked around the long table quickly and came beside Elder Mu. They all lowered their heads slightly and looked a little nervous. Why? Did the 3 of you manage to defeat your opponents like this in the tournament? What's there to be nervous about in front of me when all of you are fearless in front of your opponents? Lift your heads. We're old friends. Elder Mu's gentle voice sounded very inspirational. Hui Yu Hao and the others lowered their heads subconsciously. All they saw was an elder who was in his declining years, but had a face that wore a slight smile and was filled with tenderness. It's you? The 3 of them exclaimed at the same time. They even stared at him directly. They wouldn't have gotten it right even if they had 10,000 guesses. The elder who always laid down leisurely in front of the freshman dorm was actually the master of the Sea God's Pavilion in Shrek Academy. The 3 of them were so shocked that they became speechless. Elder Mu smiled and said, "It's weird, isn't it? All of you are right, I am that old man. Although I control the Sea God's Pavilion, I'm unwilling to stay here. It's too boring. How can it be as bustling as your freshman dorm? I can feel the youthful aura, which makes me feel younger too. Sensing all of your vitality and vigor can also prolong my lifespan by a few years." Hui Yu Hao discovered that he was stuttering. Whether it was him, Wang Dong or Xiao Xiao, they couldn't draw the connection between this frail elder and his identity as Shrek's master. Elder Mu lifted one hand and said, "Help me up." Hui Yu Hao rushed forward and lifted Elder Mu's hand. Elder Mu's actions were very slow, just like an old man who had one foot in his grave. He stood up from his lying position slowly. But his back continued to be bent at a 90-degree angle, which was a sorrowful sight. Elder Mu's arms were very delicate. While they felt very warm, they were extremely bony and rigid. Elder Mu chortled and said, "I'm not trying to be ostentatious by lying over here. When I was younger, I was injured, and I never recovered from that injury. That's why I can only bend my back like that. They felt bad for me, so they prepared a reclining chair for me." As he spoke, he lifted his hand and pointed in a direction. Hui Yu Hao carefully supported him as they advanced. Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao followed behind. Even now, their eyes were still filled with surprise. Elder Mu laughed slightly as he walked. "Hui Yu Hao, I noticed you the first time you entered the freshman dorm. That's because you are one of the rare few kids who greeted me actively. You're very courteous. Every time you entered the freshman dorm, you greeted me. That's very good, that's what younger ones like me should do." Hui Yu Hao replied in a low voice. Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao lowered their heads in guilt. They were normally also focused on learning and cultivating in the external courtyard. How could they be bothered to notice an elder in front of the freshman dorm? Hui Yu Hao supported Elder Mu all the way to the front of a wall. Elder Mu lifted his hand and pointed out. A streak of golden light suddenly lit up, and everything around them seemed to turn illusory. An intense golden halo surrounded Hui Yu Hao and the other 2 instantly. They only felt that it was extremely bright in front of them. They quickly shut their eyes. There was nothing beneath their feet. When they stepped forward in the next moment, the surrounding golden light had already disappeared. The Sea God's Pavilion had disappeared. To their horror, they discovered that they were in a vast hall. This hall seemed to be 100 meters long and was squarish in shape. Its surface area was similar to the competition stage of the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. There were several tunnels at the sides of the hall that led to unknown places. There were no windows and everything was enclosed, but the air was very fresh. There were several statues erected inside the hall. They were similar to the ones in Shrek Academy after one entered the academy. Shrek's founder, the Golden Triangle, and the first-generation Shrek 7 monsters. But there were more statues here, and these statues seemed to be made of wood. Elder Mu smiled. "Aren't you all curious as to why the Sea God's Pavilion doesn't seem grand? But did any of you realize that the Sea God's Pavilion wasn't constructed, but carved out? Hui Yu Hao and the other 2 were stunned. They didn't understand the meaning behind those 2 words. Elder Mu said, "The Sea God's Pavilion was originally a huge tree, a golden tree that was rarely seen in the world. It was a tree that contained an aura of light and life. The earlier generations used this golden tree as the foundation, and carved out the sea god's pavilion without affecting the life of the golden tree. That's why the sea god's pavilion doesn't seem to have been put together, while the various decorations and statues in the sea god's pavilion were made by the wood that was dug out during the carving process. This golden tree can be said to be the root of Shrek Academy. The three of you will understand its significance in the future. Wang Dong, go to the first tunnel on the right. At the 10-meter mark, there should be a door. Push the door open and enter the room behind it. Sit on the prayer mat and cultivate there. Wang Dong was stunned and hesitated for a moment. Hu Yuhao nodded his head at him hurriedly, and he then followed Elder Mu's instructions. He naturally knew that Elder Mu's instructions were for his own good, but he was unwilling to be separated from Hu Yuhao. Xiao Xiao, take the third tunnel to the left and enter the second door. Cultivate there too. Whenever the two of you recover from your fixed state, you can return to the external courtyard. Yes. Xiao Xiao answered hurriedly. Her huge eyes blinked, and she walked to the other side. Only Hu Yuhao was left with Elder Mu after the two of them left. Elder Mu smiled and said, "You can go too. Walk to the end of the first tunnel to the right. There will be a door to a room. Enter the room and start to meditate. You'll have your answer when you come out." "Yes. Thank you, Elder." Elder Mu smiled and said, "My surname is Mu. You can call me Elder Mu, all right, Elder Mu." Hu Yuhao answered. But he didn't leave. "Elder Mu, do you need me to take you somewhere to rest first?" Elder Mu was a little stunned as he twisted his head to look at him. He could only see Hu Yuhao's sincerity and naturalness from his eyes. There was no deliberate intention at all. After patting Hu Yuhao's hand, he smiled and said, "I can still walk. Go. This closed-door cultivation will be important to all of you. Relax and go over everything that has happened. I believe that you will gain something from this, yes." Hu Yuhao only let go of his hand now and walked towards the first tunnel to the right. When he reached the opening of the tunnel, he stopped in his tracks subconsciously and turned back to look at Elder Mu. Elder Mu was also looking at him. Hu Yuhao didn't know that Elder Mu was sure this concerned look of his proved that his words previously didn't contain any other intentions. Wang Dong was the first to reach his destination, the first door at the end of the first tunnel to the right. The door was wooden, and appeared to be made from the golden tree wood that Elder Mu had mentioned. As he lifted his hand to push at the door slightly, the door opened easily. It was as if it had just unlatched. Wang Dong felt a strong aura of light engulfing him as he opened the door, which almost caused him to suffocate. In the next moment, a wave of suction force appeared and dragged his body into the room. Wang Dong's gaze turned lifeless as he walked into the room. The room was around 10 square meters large. Countless rhizomes hung from the ceiling and covered the entire four walls, as well as the floor. He wouldn't be so shocked if they were just stems. He was shocked because these rhizomes were entirely yellowish golden. The strong aura of life came from these rhizomes. In the center of this room, there was a circular mat that subtly shone with a golden radiance. The strong aura of light spread out from above it. The concentration of the light element was so great that it almost assumed liquid form. Elder Mu said, "The sea god's pavilion was originally a huge tree, a golden tree that was rarely seen in the world. It was a tree that contained an aura of light and life. The earlier generations used this golden tree as the foundation, and carved out the sea god's pavilion without affecting the life of the golden tree. That's why the sea god's pavilion doesn't seem to have been put together, while the various decorations and statues in the sea god's pavilion were made by the wood that was dug out during the carving process. This golden tree can be said to be the root of Shrek Academy. The three of you will understand its significance in the future. Wang Dong, go to the first tunnel on the right. At the 10-meter mark, there should be a door. Push the door open and enter the room behind it. Sit on the prayer mat and cultivate there." Wang Dong was stunned and hesitated for a moment. Hu Yuhao nodded his head at him hurriedly, and he then followed Elder Mu's instructions. He naturally knew that Elder Mu's instructions were for his own good, but he was unwilling to be separated from Hu Yuhao. "Xiao Xiao, take the third tunnel to the left and enter the second door. Cultivate there too. Whenever the two of you recover from your fixed state, you can return to the external courtyard." "Yes." Xiao Xiao answered hurriedly. Her huge eyes blinked, and she walked to the other side. Only Hu Yuhao was left with Elder Mu after the two of them left. Elder Mu smiled and said, "You can go too. Walk to the end of the first tunnel to the right. There will be a door to a room. Enter the room and start to meditate. You'll have your answer when you come out." "Yes." "Thank you, Elder." Elder Mu smiled and said, "My surname is Mu. You can call me Elder Mu, all right, Elder Mu. Hui Yu Hao answered. But he didn't leave. Elder Mu, do you need me to take you somewhere to rest first? Elder Mu was a little stunned as he twisted his head to look at him. He could only see Hui Yu Hao's sincerity and naturalness from his eyes. There was no deliberate intention at all. After patting Hui Yu Hao's hand, he smiled and said, I can still walk. Go. This closed-door cultivation will be important to all of you. Relax and go over everything that has happened. I believe that you will gain something from this. Yes. Hui Yu Hao only let go of his hand now and walked towards the first tunnel to the right. When he reached the opening of the tunnel, he stopped in his tracks subconsciously and turned back to look at Elder Mu. Elder Mu was also looking at him. Hui Yu Hao didn't know that Elder Mu was sure this concerned look of his proved that his words previously didn't contain any other intentions. Wang Dong was the first to reach his destination, the first door at the end of the first tunnel to the right. The door was wooden and appeared to be made from the golden tree wood that Elder Mu had mentioned. As he lifted his hand to push at the door slightly, the door opened easily. It was as if it had just unlatched. Wang Dong felt a strong aura of light engulfing him as he opened the door, which almost caused him to suffocate. In the next moment, a wave of suction force appeared and dragged his body into the room. Wang Dong's gaze turned lifeless as he walked into the room. The room was around 10 square meters large. Countless rhizomes hung from the ceiling and covered the entire 4 walls, as well as the floor. He wouldn't be so shocked if they were just stems. He was shocked because these rhizomes were entirely yellowish golden. The strong aura of life came from these rhizomes. In the center of this room, there was a circular mat that subtly shone with a golden radiance. The strong aura of light spread out from above it. The concentration of the light element was so great that it almost assumed liquid form. Wang Dong only felt that his heart had been cleansed. He even had the same feeling he had experienced when he had first bathed in the golden light before he came to the Sea God's Pavilion. He understood that the golden light he was being bathed in belonged to the power of the golden tree. But he didn't know who guided it. This wasn't just a stroke of luck, but fortune. Wang Dong was also very intelligent. He walked forward rapidly and sat cross-legged on the mat. All of you are in the Sea God's Pavilion underground world. There are 108 rooms here, and they cover almost all the environments suited for all types of martial souls. Every inner courtyard disciple has a chance to undergo deep meditation here. Although the few of you aren't inner courtyard disciples yet, I've granted permission for the few of you to undergo deep meditation here beforehand on account of your contributions to the academy, sufficient experience in the tournament and your gifts of twin martial souls. Your efforts will reap greater rewards here, and this experience will be very valuable to your future cultivation. But it's not just about your cultivation here. More importantly, you have to find your path here. Wang Dong was jolted once again as he heard Elder Mu's words. He seemed to understand some things. Elder Mu said, every soul master has a path he needs to take. Assault, agility, control, auxiliary, these are only the shallowest things. Achieving more requires one to find his path accurately and precisely. No one can tell you how to walk this path. You can only discover it for yourself. For individuals with twin martial souls like yourself, it's even more important to discover your own path. Never hesitate or doubt the path you chose. Try your best to finish walking that path. You'll succeed no matter what the path is if you can do this. Elder Mu's guidance stopped here, and his voice also disappeared completely. In the other 2 rooms, Xiao Xiao and Hui Yu Hao also heard the same things. Xiao Xiao was in a special room. There were no rhizomes in this room. There was only a huge bell. Firstly, Xiao Xiao felt a heaviness that almost suffocated her. When she made an effort to sit down on the mat, she only heard a loud boom. Everything around her disappeared, and the only thought in her head was that she was trapped in a bell. Hui Yu Hao was in the most special room. When he entered, it was pitch black. The entire room was silent. He subconsciously wanted to unleash his martial soul when he entered the room. With his spirit eyes and purple demon eyes, he could see everything clearly even if there wasn't any light. But he suddenly felt a great distortion in the space where he was standing at this moment. It was as if the entire area around him had twisted tremendously, and his mind seemed to enter a trance. He staggered forward 2 steps, and countless yellow spots lit up around him. It was as if many pairs of eyes were staring at him. A quiet chamber that was also 10 square meters in size also lit up. What was this? When Hui Yu Hao looked at what was on the walls around him, he was shocked. He wanted to escape immediately. But he soon found out to his horror that he couldn't locate the door. Even though he unleashed his spirit eyes and used his spiritual detection to search for the door, he still couldn't find it. The same type of bone was hung on the four walls and the ceiling. This bone didn't belong to a human, but was instead a triangular skull that was. There was a huge gap for the eyes, and the bottom of the skull was sharp. The yellow lights were shining from the eye sockets, which appeared to be balls of flames. Hu Yuhao groaned. His body shook, and he almost fell to the ground. He only felt like a huge cage formed by immense spiritual power was trapping him within, and it was even caving in towards him. He did not just feel tormented. He was even fearful. His spiritual sea also started to writhe tremendously, as if it was about to be torn apart by the frightening spiritual power outside. But the Sky Dream Ice Worm, Ice Empress and Electrolux didn't react at this point. He was the only one bearing all this. Elder Mu's voice resonated at this moment. Hu Yuhao, tell me, what is spiritual power? Hu Yuhao was different from both Wang Dong and Xiao Xiao in that he was already used to spiritual interaction. He immediately used his spiritual sea to reveal his answer. Spiritual power is will. Elder Mu said, that's right, spiritual power is will. And the key to training one's spiritual power is through resistance and pressure. Your spiritual power is much stronger than I had imagined. There's no other way to describe it other than the fact that you have an unusual gift. Since you have twin martial souls and the ultimate ice as one of them, can you tell me why you didn't choose the ultimate ice to be your main martial soul, but instead chose your spirit eyes? Hu Yuhao replied, that's because the Ice Jade Scorpion is too powerful. Its powers can only be fully unleashed when the soul rings on it are stronger. That's why I hope to use the spirit eyes to accumulate sufficient strength, and ensure that the soul rings on the Ice Jade Scorpion are at least 10,000 years and above. Elder Mu laughed suddenly. Little fellow, what's the level of your Ice Jade Scorpion's first soul ring? This, Hu Yuhao turned anxious. He realized that he couldn't lie to Elder Mu. 100,000-year soul ring, am I right? Elder Mu's words were like a Class 9 soul tool cannon shell as they struck Hu Yuhao. Elder Mu said, in fact, you've concealed it very well. You managed to conceal your second martial soul's first soul ring with your spirit eye's second soul ring's imitation. Others can't tell, but it's different for me. Do you know why? Elder Mu exclaimed, I have cultivated for my entire life, and roamed the continent for more than 200 years. I have seen countless soul masters and even more martial souls. But it's my first time seeing a situation like yours. I sensed the special characteristic of your second martial soul. I even went to the extreme north for it and caught an Ice Jade Scorpion. It's indeed different. Although your martial soul is similar to an Ice Jade Scorpion, there were no Ice Jade Scorpions that possessed the azure green, 5-joint tail like your martial soul. After a period of observation, I discovered that stronger Ice Jade Scorpions had greener tails. That's why I'm certain that if your second martial soul belongs to an Ice Jade Scorpion, it must be the king of the Ice Jade Scorpions. It may even be the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion, the second among the 3 heavenly kings of the extreme north and the top among the 10 great savage beasts. A deep fear rose from Hu Yuhao's heart. Elder Mu actually went to the extreme north to verify his martial soul, and even conducted research on the Ice Jade Scorpions in the extreme north. He had made an accurate analysis. Elder Mu was indeed too brilliant. Hu Yuhao felt as if he was entirely exposed in front of Elder Mu. Elder Mu continued saying, when I returned, I analyzed this condition that appeared on your body. The only answer that I have is that you possess a 100,000-year soul ring and a 100,000-year soul bone. To better observe your condition, I watched the tournament in Star Luo City, especially the few important rounds. Your abilities were revealed when you faced strong opponents, especially when you unleashed your domain-type ability. I can clearly feel that your bones have surpassed normal conditions. This has also further verified my judgment. But your imitation skill was good, and you concealed it well. Even I couldn't get the complete picture. It's been at least 50 years since something has aroused my curiosity. But you've aroused it now. I wondered then, how was it possible for a teenager like you to fuse with an Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion soul ring and soul bone? And this Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion must have had a cultivation of at least 200,000 years. You even made it your martial soul. I am certain that less than 5 people in Shrek Academy can bear the fusion of that kind of optimal soul ring, and those people already have 9 rings to themselves. 9 rings is the limit of an ordinary soul master, and we don't have twin martial souls. The fact is that even if we could find and kill an Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion, we couldn't put its soul ring to use. I discovered later on that the power of the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion should exist in your body. But it's just that this power has been sealed. How did this seal come about? You've indeed piqued my curiosity. I thought for a good 6 months before coming up with a forced guess. Before you went to the extreme north and planned to obtain the second soul ring for your spirit eyes, you met the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion, who couldn't break through its bottleneck. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion couldn't bear for its formidable strength to disappear before it passed on, thus it sealed its powers and gave them to you. That's how you got your second martial soul. You were also given its soul ring and soul bone. It seems like this is the only logical explanation. But here comes the question, why did you go to the extreme north to hunt for soul beasts and soul rings even though you possess a spiritual type martial soul? Even though the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion sealed your powers, it's not something that someone as small as you should be able to bear. And how did the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion become your martial soul directly? I can't find the answers to these. Hua Yuhao pursed his lips and did not speak. Elder Mu's guess wasn't entirely correct, but it was close to the answer. Elder Mu smiled and said, there are too many peculiarities on your body. If I didn't observe your body and verify that you were human, I might really suspect that you were a soul beast reborn. Everyone has their own destiny. I can't fully tell your condition, but I can see steadiness and sincerity on you. Your performances in the tournament left me extremely comforted too. If you're willing to, I hope to play the role as your listener before I leave this world. But I won't force you. Underground Hall. Elder Mu was still in the center of the hall. But he had laid back onto his reclining chair. Yang Xiaosha and Xian Lina stood beside him. Yang Xiaosha asked in a low voice, Teacher, are you really not going to clarify things? Elder Mu shook his head and said, there's no need to. He's a human, and his bloodline is obviously not from the Sun Moon Empire. With these two premises, the rest is unimportant. He's still young, and can still be molded. We can't chill his heart because of our doubts. Yang Xiaosha creased his brow slightly and said, if he's a spy sent by the other side. Xian Lina suddenly snorted coldly, if it were you, would you send someone with an ultimate martial soul to be a spy? Furthermore, I analyzed Hua Yuhao's progress and experience after he entered the academy. His powers only soared after he graduated from first grade. He must have met with that weird encounter during the holidays. If it were you, would you tell anyone if you had such an encounter? Yang Xiaosha wasn't infuriated because of Xian Lina's tone. He only replied as if something was on his mind, Lina, I understand what you're saying. But don't you find it a coincidence that the Spirit Eye's second soul ring came to possess imitation at the same time he gained the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion as his martial soul? It's so coincidental that it seems everything was planned. Xian Lina said coldly, I only know that I would recall my spy if he obtained an ultimate martial soul from some miraculous opportunity and nurture him with all my strength. At the same time, I would not send an 11-year-old kid into my enemy's camp. How unpredictable are kids? Yang Xiaosha, you're always so narrow-minded and lack magnanimity. Yang Xiaosha turned red and white from Xian Lina's censure. But he didn't dare to flare up in front of Elder Mu. After leaving the classroom block, she returned to the dormitory quickly. She seemed to be thinking of something as she walked. Pretty lady, give me some face and have a meal with me. At this point, a figure blocked her way. As she was walking very quickly, she almost walked into that person. Scram. Tang Wei was enraged and lifted her head. Everyone knew about her relationship with Bei Bei. Did someone from the outer courtyard just try to take liberties with her? However, her eyes never shifted once she lifted her head. That handsome face that appeared gentle and refined wore a slight smile on it as it filled Tang Wei's gaze. You still remembered to return. Tang Wei's voice trembled a little. Bei Bei laughed slightly. How could I not return when my wife's here? What if she runs away with someone else? Who's your wife? Tang Wei reprimanded him. You're so rude. I'm the head of the Tang sect, your teacher. Bei Bei extended his arms and the smile on his face didn't change. Come teacher, give me a hug. Tang Wei pursed her lips lightly and glared at him. After that, she rushed into his arms and hugged his waist tightly. She started to bawl. Bei Bei hugged her slender finger and was a little stunned. What's wrong? Did someone really bully you? In his heart, Tang Wei had always been like a cheerful angel. Although she had the heavy burden of rebuilding the Tang sect, she was still a very cheerful person. Although Bei Bei had been away from her for a long time, she should have at most censured him with a few words. She wouldn't wail uncontrollably like this. Tang Wei didn't reply, and only hugged him as she cried. She cried until Bei Bei's shirt was drenched with her tears. She then lifted her swollen, red eyes and said, I'm fine. Bei Bei lifted his hand uncourteously above her head and knocked it. Why would you cry so hard if nothing was wrong? Let's return to the dormitory first. Tang Yue's dorm mate was Jiang Nan Nan. Jiang Nan Nan was not around, as she had followed Xu Sancha to the pharmacy and wouldn't return anytime soon. It wasn't Bei Bei's first time sneaking into the ladies' dorm. Although the academy had rules, they couldn't possibly catch every trespasser. Tang Yue opened her door and entered before opening the window for Bei Bei to climb in. He wasn't spotted. But even if he was, who in the outer courtyard would dare to expose him? Tang Yue and Jiang Nanan's room didn't have too many decorations. It was simple and pleasant. Jiang Nanan's mattress even had patches. Tang Yue dragged Bei Bei onto the bed to sit down. She leaned into his arms and hugged him tightly. There was no news even though all of you were gone for so long. How was the tournament? Bei Bei gazed at her deeply and didn't pursue the doubt in his heart. He recounted his experiences to her. He had always been someone who could control his temperament and was patient. That's why he recounted everything in detail, and only finished when it had already turned dark outside. What? The academy rewarded all of you by making all of you Shrek 7 monsters? Tang Yue was stunned and she sat up. She opened her eyes wide and looked at him as if she didn't recognize him. Bei Bei nodded and said, I'm very surprised too, but I'm also delighted. Why? Are you not delighted? You need to know that 5 of us out of the 7 hails from Tang sect. Tang Yue furrowed her brows and shook her head slightly. I'm elated for all of you. But can all of you still do anything for Tang sect now that all of you have become Shrek 7 monsters? Too many of the academy's imprints have been carved onto your bodies. Bei Bei laughed uncontrollably. Why not? The academy won't restrict our freedom. Furthermore, the relationship between the academy and Tang sect has always been quite good. How is it good? Tang Yue was furious as she shook her head. Her eyes even flashed with a tinge of hostility. Where was the academy when the Tang sect was going downhill? I was chased out of my own home. Where were they when the Tang sect ended? Did they ever help us as the continent's top academy? Bei Bei was a little stunned as he looked at Tang Yue's expression. Xiao Yue, are you fine? Your emotions are. It was his first time seeing Tang Yue revealing such an expression. Tang Yue threw her head down forcefully, as if she was trying to wrench something to the ground. She lowered her head and said, sorry, I'm fine. Bei Bei couldn't see that a shred of dim purple had flashed across Tang Yue's bright, wide eyes. It wasn't the glow of the purple demon eyes, but a dim purple that carried an aura of death. Bei Bei hugged her once again and said, Xiao Yue, don't waste your time. The Tang sect declined because due to its own actions. Besides the lack of advantage of secret weapons, the Tang sect's past leaders also had all sorts of problems. These led to the fall of the Tang sect, which was once prosperous. But you should be seeing a glimmer of hope now. There's Yu Hao, Yi Kai Tu, Wang Dong, Xiao Xiao and me by your side. We can help you rebuild the Tang sect, help it become prosperous again when our powers grow. We're still young, and we've time to work hard for the Tang sect's rise. Tang Yue laughed bitterly and said, but have you ever thought of what I'm capable of doing for Tang sect as its leader? All of you are already Shrek 7 monsters, but I'm getting further and further from all of you. I'm also aware that I won't make it into the inner courtyard. I'm not that capable, and the inner courtyard won't let me in just because I'm the Tang sect's leader. Xiao Yue, listen to me, Bei Bei said gently, we're still young. Why do you have to be so impatient? Tang Yue buried her face in his arms. Stop persuading me. You don't know how hard it was for me to make this decision. I must leave. I've already tendered my leave from the academy. I hesitated on whether I should wait for you to return. I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to make my decision when you return. But I was more afraid that my sudden departure would be too much for you to bear and affect your studies. That's why I decided to bear the pain of my departure and tell you about it clearly. Bei Bei's body shook. Xiao Yue, have you really made up your mind? He understood her and knew the stubbornness that was deeply rooted in her bones. Tang Yue nodded slightly. Bei Bei took in a deep breath and tried to calm himself down forcefully. Where are you going then? At least tell me the place so that I can find you during the holidays. Tang Yue replied softly, I will return to the Heavenly Soul Empire where the Tang sect originated. I will rebuild the Tang sect in the Heavenly Soul Empire's capital. Our Tang sect's family is also there. Heavendo City was named to remember the Heavendo Empire that once existed. The Tang sect will always be tied to this city. While the Tang sect may not be around temporarily, they are still connected. I will go back and contact them. I'll at least find a place for the Tang sect. Bei Bei creased his brows. Must you go to Heavendo City? The Tang sect's former address was there. I'm afraid they will do something bad to you. Tang Yue answered, I won't let them discover me. This is unless I can push them into a corner and regain the Tang sect's territory one day. Bei Bei saw the hostility in Tang Yue's eyes once again, and was filled with discomfort. What if I don't let you go? Tang Ya's gaze turned tender again. She gently caressed his face. Bei, you're the one who understands me the best in this world. I can't do anything for the Tang sect in terms of my abilities. If you don't let me contribute to the rebuilding of Tang sect, I won't be happy. I will wait for you in the Heavendo city as I set up the Tang sect's foundation. We'll seize the Tang sect's estate and rebuild the sect one day when you, Hui Yuhao, and the rest achieve something. This is something I have to do. Hui Yuhao was like a small boat amidst a spiritual windstorm as the immense spiritual power exerted pressure on him. He maintained himself as the windstorm raged. While the windstorm was very frightening, he never submitted. Hui Yuhao was also unsure of how much time had passed. His spiritual sea seemed to be hammered into shape as it was assaulted repeatedly. His spiritual sea had shrunk by a third from the start till now. But he realized that his spiritual power had become more condensed at the same time. Based on the total spiritual power in the quiet chamber, it would be impossible for Hui Yuhao to bear if they were all in an offensive state. They could tear his spiritual sea apart instantly. But the spiritual power was scattered in this enclosed space. Some of them exerted pressure, but didn't attack him. That's why Hui Yuhao could still hold on. The external assault became weaker as Hui Yuhao condensed his spiritual power. He also calmed down. He was comprehending the changes in his body and the new capabilities he possessed. Every soul skill and all the strength in his body was growing as he comprehended his body and everything within it. Hui Yuhao could recall that Elder Mu once told him to find his own path. It was only through finding his own path that his future road to mastery would become smoother, and he would not be lost. But what was his path? Soul Master? Soul Engineer? Assault type, Ultimate Ice Soul Master? Control type, Spirit Ice Soul Master? Everything he learned seemed a little heterogeneous now. And didn't seem to come together. The path he was supposed to find was supposed to teach him how to fuse all his strengths together. The external pressure sparked the enhancement of his spiritual power, and he also became more and more composed. He wasn't anxious at all. He tried to painstakingly sense all the capabilities in his internal world and slowly find the path that belonged to him. What's your path? Elder Mu laid quietly on the recliner chair and looked at the young lady in front of him with a gentle gaze. Xiao Xiao had grown thinner. She wasn't fat in the first place, but was even thinner now. She even seemed a little bony. But her eyes had become brighter. My path is auxiliary. Xiao Xiao answered without hesitation. Oh? Elder Mu was a little stunned. Why did you choose auxiliary? Xiao Xiao answered confidently. I have 2 martial souls. They are the 3-lived Soul Crush Cauldron and the 9 Phoenix Worshipping Flute. The 9 Phoenix Worshipping Flute is a sound-type martial soul, and can turn into either a control-type or auxiliary-type martial soul. My first soul skill is the auxiliary type, and I don't wish to waste it. That's why the 9 Phoenix Worshipping Flute can only be an auxiliary type, whereas my 3-lived Soul Crush Cauldron can be a control type or defense type. It can even be used defensively. It belongs in the category of 10,000 gold oil. So from what I see, the abilities that it has can be used for auxiliary purposes. I'm confident in becoming a top-ranked auxiliary-type battle soul master if it's paired with my 9 Phoenix Worshipping Flute. Elder Mu laughed. This is a new term to me. I've only heard of auxiliary-type tool soul masters. I'm a battle soul master, Xiao Xiao said confidently. My aid will be active. This is my path. Elder Mu looked at her. Are there any other reasons why you've made this choice? Xiao Xiao nodded slightly, because Shrek 7 monsters need someone in that role. Elder Mu smiled. Although the smile on his frail and elderly face didn't look nice, it was filled with benevolence and comfort. Very well, you've found your path. I'm happy for you. Xiao Xiao laughed too, but how long will I be here? Elder Mu, I'm hungry. I feel Elder Mu smiled more radiantly. Silly kid, your deep meditation lasted 34 days and 12 hours. Get something to eat first. After that, you can fuse the soul bone you got as a reward. He opened his eyes slowly. His huge, purplish-blue eyes were clear and bright. His body was smooth and translucent, like a golden ruby. A gentle, golden light shone from his body. I never expected my path to be like this. But I'm confident that I'm right. Hui Yuhao opened his arms, and the two of them hugged. Their soul power surged into each other's body at this instant, and the Haodong power also circulated at this point. There was a clear, white halo that surrounded Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong in the center. This led to the formation of a whirlpool. The intense undulation of their soul power burst forth as they surged, which made the both of them feel as if they were filled with strength. He became stronger. This was the same thought that went through Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong's minds. That they didn't simply become stronger. Their strength had soared. Compared to the increase in soul power, it was more important that they could feel a sense of all-roundness on each other that wasn't there before. It's as if their entire strength had been perfectly fused. Their soul master rankings seemed unable to restrain their true abilities anymore. Wang Dong relaxed his arm and asked Hui Yuhao, "Have you found your own path?" Hui Yuhao smiled and asked him back, "What about you?" Wang Dong proudly said, "Of course I did. I'm so talented, of course I managed to find it." Hui Yuhao laughed, "Then I would have found it naturally too. Since you're a talent and I'm better than you, I must be the talent among all the talents." Wang Dong snorted and said, "How are you better than me?" Hui Yuhao chortled and compared their arm muscles. He said, "At least I'm more robust than you. Your body is so soft. While it's nice to hug, it lacks manliness." Wang Dong turned red. "I can't be bothered with you. Tell me, what's your path?" Hui Yuhao, I found, as he spoke till this point, a gentle voice resonated in both their ears. "Come out and speak, Elder Mu." The two of them were stunned as they looked at each other. They didn't expect Elder Mu to be waiting for them. They walked out of the tunnel quickly, and saw the elder lying on the reclining chair in the middle of the hall, Elder Mu. The two of them bowed respectfully. Elder Mu looked at Hui Yuhao before looking at Wang Dong. He revealed a comforted laugh. "It seems like the two of you have also found your paths." Wang Dong was surprised as he asked, "Also? Has Xiao Xiao found hers too?" Elder Mu nodded and said, "She came out earlier than the both of you. Tell me, what are your paths?" Elder Mu suddenly said, "Why don't the both of you write your paths on my hand at the same time?" As he spoke, he smiled while extending both his hands. Elder Mu's hands appeared extremely youthful, unlike his face. His palms were slender, and his skin was clear like jade. A sparkling radiance subtly flashed, but it was different from Wang Dong's glossy skin. There was a sense of simplicity to his palms. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong stared at each other. They acted with great chemistry, and came to Elder Mu's side. Elder Mu smiled and said, "You can begin." They lifted their hands and extended their index fingers at the same time. They wrote the paths that belonged to them on his palms. These were the paths that they would walk for their entire lives. Elder Mu's smile widened. He clenched his palms into fists when they both stopped. "The two of you have indeed found the paths that belong to you. Very good. I'm very comforted." As he spoke, he lifted his hands, and they intersected. His palms faced towards Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong. There were two words on both his palms, and they shone with a dim golden color, Tang Sect. Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong exclaimed together. They were shocked as they looked at each other. They were momentarily stunned. Was this chemistry? It couldn't be simply described using chemistry anymore. The paths they chose were exactly the same. Elder Mu smiled and said, "Wang Dong, tell me first why you chose this path. What does it mean to you?" Wang Dong replied, "I'm actually not very sure myself. Both my martial souls are assault type. Without a doubt, my path should be assault-based. But during the process of deep meditation, the words Tang Sect popped up for no reason. I also realized that my strength is closely related to the different capabilities of the Tang Sect. Besides being unskilled in secret weapons, the rest of the Tang Sect's methods are aligned with my skills. They include the controlling crane capturing dragon, purple demon eyes, mysterious jade hands, ghost shadow perplexing track, etc. Both the radiant butterfly goddess and clear sky hammer require offensive tactics. The most accurate soul master just unleashes his soul power, whereas a stronger soul master unleashes his soul power cleverly. I hope to become a soul master that combines my soul skills with the Tang Sect's techniques. This is the path that I want to take." Elder Mu nodded his head and said, "Very good. Hui Yuhao, what about you?" Hui Yuhao looked at Wang Dong and said, "My situation is more complex than Wang Dong's. But I think that the Tang Sect is more suitable for me." Elder Mu turned his wrists around, and something else appeared in both his palms. In front of Hui Yuhao was the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion's left arm bone that he had once seen at the top-ranked auction in the Starlight Auction House. A thick, icy fog caused the temperature in the hall to dip quickly. There was a right arm bone in Elder Mu's other hand. This right arm bone presented itself in bright gold, and the radiance that came from it carried an intense aura of sharpness. "Yuhao, I've analyzed this left arm bone before. It's a soul bone that came from at least a 10,000-year soul beast. Although soul bone absorption won't be as tremendous as a soul ring's reaction, the ultimate ice aura contained within this soul bone is extremely domineering. I believe the saying about the ice explosion technique is real. Are you confident?" Hui Yuhao's eyes lit up, and he nodded his head with strength. Elder Mu smiled and passed him the Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. He said, "Then you can start fusing it here, Wang Dong. This right arm bone is called the Broken Devil of Light. I obtained it when I was young, but it's a pity that I already had 6 soul bones then. Otherwise, you'd have had no fate with it. This Broken Devil of Light came from an extremely rare element-type soul beast. This strong presence can only be nurtured in a place where the light element is in abundance. I'm still not sure what soul skill the Broken Devil of Light carries, and I can only tell when it combines with you. But I'm certain that it carries a powerful offensive soul skill. It also has a strong restraining effect on all dark and evil powers. I believe evil soul masters will be afraid when they see it. When soul bones are being paired, it's best to pair the corresponding soul bone to an existing soul bone that you possess. Since you already have the golden light left arm bone, the addition of this Broken Devil of Light will greatly enhance all your soul skills. You can also start fusing it here. I shall protect the both of you. An azure light lit up Hui Yuhao's chest and back. The Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion skeleton seemed to have been awakened by this left arm bone. The aura of a ruler that belonged to the Ice Jade Scorpions was gradually exuded, while the left arm bone in Hui Yuhao's hand seemed to come alive. It trembled slightly, then leapt up like a child that had seen his mother. It turned into a streak of white light before penetrating Hui Yuhao's left arm. Hui Yuhao felt the chill this time. The ice-cold flow of gas rose rapidly along his left arm and penetrated his shoulder. Then, it reached his chest and clavicle. An intense, azure light also shone from his body. The power sealed within the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion skeleton was stimulated and rapidly connected with the Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. Hui Yuhao's left arm was also dyed an azure green. An intense undulation of soul power surged maniacally. The pain that he felt when he had once fused the skeleton appeared again. Ultimate ice and heat alternated with each other. Fortunately, it was only on his left arm this time. What, again? Hui Yuhao laughed bitterly in heart. But he couldn't do anything except tolerate it at this point. In fact, it was not that the Ice Empress wanted to train him. It was that the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion skeleton was modifying this Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone. No matter how strong this Ice Jade Scorpion was, its cultivation was only around 10,000 years or so, whereas the Ice Empress had cultivated for 400,000 years. The skeleton was the core of the body, and the spine was the most important of the 6 soul bones. The rest of the soul bones connected to it. If it were any other soul bone, the Ice Empress might not be bothered. But this Ice Jade Scorpion left arm bone came from the same origin as her, and thus the modifications were very smooth. The key lay in the sense of familiarity. The immense power sealed within the Ice Jade Emperor Scorpion skeleton started to surge into the left arm bone. Hui Yuhao wasn't in any danger, but the pain he once felt came back. Shrek Academy. External Courtyard. 2nd grade, Class 1. Why is everyone silent? Have all of you become dumb? Ju Yi suddenly slammed the table and revealed an infuriated look. The students under her kept quiet out of fear. No one dared to speak. Shrek Academy. External Courtyard. 2nd grade, Class 1. Why is everyone silent? Have all of you become dumb? Ju Yi suddenly slammed the table and revealed an infuriated look. The students under her kept quiet out of fear. No one dared to speak. While Ju Yi's teaching method was simple and crude, it was quite suitable if she wanted to intimidate these talented youths. In the past year or so, the students from Class 1 maintained strong camaraderie and achieved significant progress under her. The crucial thing was that they listened to her. No one dared to defy Ju Yi, and all of them diligently completed the tasks that she gave them. While Ju Yi had expelled many in the first academic year, not one student had yet been expelled in the second academic year. She would at most reprimand them if they made mistakes, or even give them 2 kicks. They would be motivated to cultivate harder through this. However, the current atmosphere in the classroom was very tense, and all the students lowered their heads. Ju Yi scanned everyone before she fixed her attention was on Ju Sikhen. Ju Sikhen, stand up. Ju Sikhen lamented in his heart and knew that he couldn't escape. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have become the class monitor after Hui Yuhao and Wang Dong left. Ju Yinchen bit the bullet, stood up and answered, Teacher Ju. Did you not eat? Ju Yi raged, you don't seem to have any guts. You're a man. Puff up your chest. Yes. Ju Sikhen acknowledged her words and puffed up his chest. Tell me, Ju Yi said indifferently, as the class monitor, what are you going to do with regards to the competition suggested by the class 2? Ju Sichen's lips moved a little and he shouted in his heart, go for it. I'll go. He replied loudly. Ju Yi's eyes lit up. Good. This is how my students should be. So what if you lose? I don't expect you to win. But we must have the aura. As the class monitor, I will give you full authority to choose your team members. Choose another 6 to compete with you. The second academic year was already halfway done, and the midterm exams had ended. Class 1 had tipped Class 2 to become the most outstanding class in the level. This was achieved even without Hui Yuhao, Wang Dong, and Xiao Xiao. Early morning. The weather was a little hazy, but the air was very fresh. It carried a slight moisture from Sea God's Lake. When inhaled, it left one feeling relaxed and refreshed. Many students were already gathered at the Seoul dueling area within Shrek Academy's outer courtyard in the early morning. They were all from the second grade of the outer courtyard, and it wasn't just the students from the first and second classes. Students from the third and fourth classes were also gathered here. Their reason was very simple: they were here to observe and learn. Ju-yi gave off a very cold and rigid look when she wore a mask. It was as if she was warning everyone not to come close to her. Ju Sik-hen and the others were already prepared beside her, but it was obvious that they were still a little anxious from the looks on their faces. The students from Class 2 were a little late. Under Moo Jin's leadership, Dai Huabin and the rest were all feeling very competitive. Even the rest of the students behind them were all in high spirits, and looked very proud. It wasn't a surprise that they were like that. The first class of every grade in the outer courtyard was always the strongest, and they were always superior to the other classes. But it was a little special for Class 2 in the second grade. Class 2's abilities were greatly increased because Dai Huabin, Huang Chutian, Wu Feng, and the other core disciples that had been chased out of Ju-yi's class. This also developed their competitive streak. Although their overall abilities were still incomparable, Class 2 still possessed an advantage in today's competition. Many of Class 2 students reckoned that Class 1 wouldn't be able to match up to them even if Hu Yuhao, Wang Dong, and Xiao Xiao were present. That's because only 17 members could be selected. After all, Hu Yuhao and Xiao Xiao only had 2 soul rings. In Class 2, it was not only Dai Huabin who had managed to reach an astounding rank 39 soul power. Xie Huanyue was slightly lousier at rank 35, but was still commendable. The two of them were the top 2 in the second grade. Wu Feng and Huang Chutian had crossed the rank 30 mark, whereas Zhu and Kuiji were only slightly off from rank 30 at rank 29. Ju Sik-hen and Cao Jinxian managed to reach rank 28, and were among the top few agility-type students. They were also chosen to compete this time. The depth of Class 2's strength was obvious. On the contrary, the greatest strength of Class 1 was that the average cultivation of the entire class was above rank 25. But none of them were above rank 30 as of now. Ju Sik-hen, Cao Jinxian, Lan Susu, and Lan Luolua were all ranked 29, while the other 3 were ranked 28. There was a huge gap in both teams' abilities. Wang Dong, Hu Yuhao, and Xiao Xiao would make it better if they were here. After all, Wang Dong had crossed the rank 30 mark, and Hu Yuhao and Xiao Xiao both had twin martial souls. They would have a fighting chance. Class 1's morale was extremely low, which was a stark contrast from Class 2. All of them lacked energy, which revealed their despondence. After Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong ended their retreat, they both absorbed their respective soul bones before reuniting with Xiao Xiao outside of the Sea God's Pavilion. Elder Mu gave them a few days to rest and allowed them to readjust themselves. They went to obtain their third soul rings after that. It was also at this point that Fan Yu reached the inner courtyard and found Xiao Xiao. Fan Yu didn't tell Ju-yi that Hu Yuhao and Wang Dong had ended their retreat, as he wanted to give her a surprise. At this point, Ju-yi's best students had finally returned. This video will end here. Thank you for watching.